Hey everybody, Attorney Somm here. Thanks so much for watching. Today I'm introducing my Instagram live session with Clement Pierlot, who is the chef de cave for Champagne Pommery and also has control over the sparkling wine operations in California for the Louis Pommery division. And today I'm going to be showing you only the portion of the video relating to the sparkling wine operations in California. This is kind of a follow-up to the most recent video that I did on sparkling wine and compelling values in sparkling wine. In this episode, Mr. Pierlot is going to be discussing the Louis Pommery Brut California, which is available for only $20 per bottle. He's also going to be discussing the inspiration for the Louis Pommery operations, and then also a yeast encapsulation technique that they've brought over from Champagne and that they use to maintain their consistent house style even when they're making sparkling wine in California. So be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss future videos like this one. And also, if you enjoy it, please be sure to smash that like button. So let's get right into it. Talk about what you have going on in California. That's a relatively new venture.
Yes, more new for me too, because the idea with Louis Pommery was also to make the transition in Champagne, because we, as the 9th chef de cave of Pommery, has been in charge of Louis Pommery during 5 years. He just retired this year, and so the idea was to make the transition in Pommery and to start the project of Louis Pommery with the former chef de cave of Pommery. So we worked together on the Louis Pommery project. As you know, there is the project in the UK and in California. Projects are quite different, but yes, Louis Pommery is. We wanted to pay homage to the founder of Pommery, Louis Pommery, because he died 2 years after the joint venture, and nobody thinks of him. So the idea was to make something for him. So that's the project of Louis Pommery, and the idea is to try to express the Chardonnay on different terroirs in the world. So especially in California, we are more turned on the Chardonnay, and the idea is really to look for a Blanc in California. But on the same spirit we have in Champagne, the idea is to make a blend of different terroirs. So we started in 2015, and we are looking for the terroir. So we are still exploring, but we start to have our own feeling. But we are looking for a good balance between the coolness of the Pacific Ocean and the heat of the hinterland. So the idea is to find Chardonnay in different places, in Sonoma Carneros, in NAPA Carneros, in Lodi, to have a different expression of the Chardonnay in California.
Okay, great. And currently you have 3 different wines being made in California? Yes.
Since 2 months, only one, but we launched 2 products the last few weeks. We launched a sparkling rosé. I think we released it 2 weeks ago, so it's very, very young. And we also made a still wine, Chardonnay, which is only from Los Carneros, an old plot of Chardonnay. So the idea was to try a white wine from Carneros. Yes.
Excellent. And so those 2 new releases, I understand that the Chardonnay from Carneros is about $30 US retail, and the rosé is around $26 to $28 retail in the US.
Yes, the rosé is around 26. Yes, the brut is around 20, and the still Carneros is around 30, 29, I think. Yes.
Okay, great. And the original wine from California then is the Louis Pommery Brut. And so I think we're actually tasting that one today. Do you have that in your glass as well?
I have.
And as you mentioned, this is primarily Chardonnay, I believe 95% Chardonnay and 5% Pinot Noir. And this is actually an exceptional value. It's only about $20 to $23 retail in the United States. So this is something that people can definitely enjoy more regularly with that sort of price point.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So yeah, it's almost a blanc de blanc, to be honest. There is 5% of Pinot Noir, so with our precision, French precision in Champagne, we can't say it's a blanc de blanc, so that's why we are talking about the 5% of Pinot Noir. But the idea is to step by step going to a blanc de blanc.
Okay. So the goal is ultimately to get to 100% Chardonnay?
Yes, I think the next blend will be 100% Chardonnay. That's the idea. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know where some of the Pinot Noirs come from? Is it some of the northern areas?
Pinot Noir coming from NAPA, right? Yes.
NAPA is right. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good. And I was reading about a yeast capsulation technique that's utilized on this wine. What is that?
It's a project we have since a long time in Champagne, and Thierry Gascot and I worked a long time on this project, and especially Thierry Gascot. It's really his babies because it was very difficult, because the idea is not only to encapsulate yeast, it's to encapsulate all yeast. So the idea is to make encapsulated yeast with the Pommery yeast. The idea is to have the same yeast all over the world when we are doing our sparkling wine. So what was really difficult is to make an encapsulated yeast with all yeast and capable to do the second fermentation at very low temperature. That's really the innovation. Was to work on that and to be able to make second fermentation at low temperature, because one part of the style of the house is to make bubbles in all cellars in Reims at 10 degrees, and it's not so easy to make second fermentation at 10 degrees, and it changes the style of a sparkling wine. So the project of the encapsulated yeast was really to combine all yeast, the capacity of the yeast to ferment at low temperature, and to use the same yeast everywhere in the world.
Okay, great. And so even with respect to the fruit sources from California, you're still trying to maintain the house style.
Yeah, the idea is not to make champagne. It's really to express the potential of the terroir, which is very strong in California. It's also very strong in Hampshire, in the UK, where we are working. So it's not to kill the style of Californian wine. It's to express the style of Californian wine, but to have the style of the house in terms of finesse and elegance, but to keep we want the fruit of California. It's not a blanc de blanc of Champagne. It's from California with a lot of fruit. Yes, it's very.
Yeah, and actually, I was getting a lot more of the ripe tropical fruit from this than I do from some of the Champagne. Most likely because the fruit sources in California get a little more heat, a little more ripe than some of the Champagne fruit.
Yeah, it's easy to have fruit in California because the ripeness is not a problem. But what is difficult is to find the balance with acidity and to keep the freshness. That's why we tried on this wine to have the fruit, but also to have the good balance between acidity, because we know that it's very important to have the good balance in mouth. Of course, when you have the nose, it's very pleasant, but when you taste a sparkling wine, what is more important is the feeling in the mouth and the balance. So you have to have the good balance between acidity, sweetness, and fruit.
And we actually have a question regarding the pricing for the Louis Pommery Brut, and they're wondering how it is that you're able to keep the price so affordable. And I imagine a lot of that has to do with the fact that land in Champagne is so expensive, but perhaps other factors as well.
The land is very expensive. The grapes are very expensive. The regulations are so strong. The stages if you look at the specification of the region of Champagne, it's like this. So the regulations are very strong. The grapes are quite rare, and so the delimited area is little, and it's made in France, and the Californian one is made in California, so it's a big difference.
Yeah, so for people in the United States, they think that California tends to have lots of regulations, but perhaps it's not nearly as many as in France.
I think there is a lot more in France.
Okay, great. Perfect.